Alright, it's working. Holy shit. Oh my god, I'm getting gobbled up by bugs. This thing's working, right? Oh, these little bastard bugs. I totally forgot about these guys. I should have been dead by now. They're not mosquitoes. They're these tiny little annoying things that go in your ear, up your nose, in your eye. And they're relentless. Oops. Now, where am I? That is Mount Currie behind me. I got the satellite set up right there. Power source right there. It's working. And it's tough to pick the view. There's so many, right? I guess I can walk that camera anyway. I'll show you what I'm looking at. I used to spend so much time before this new road got cut in here. I used to hike up here in the big mature timber from way down there. It's kind of a bummer that it's a road up here now, but whatever. Holy cow, this is like, you can't see them, but they're nasty. Here's the view. Here's the view. So, yesterday, I flew my drone up. I don't know if you can see, why can't I see on here? I flew my drone up into those mountains right there. And for anybody familiar, when I said that was where I filmed those lights, it's not the lights in my trail camera. Oh, right in my ear. Anyway, I don't know how long I'm gonna be able to put up with this. But I filmed over there, it was a couple years ago. I video handheld recorded over there where I threw the drone up, two bright lights up in the mountains, and it was probably about -30, -20 anyway, for sure. And it's about 5 o'clock in the morning. And I videotaped from across the valley. And there was at first one and then two lights and then one. And then yesterday I went all the way up there as far as I could on the quad, and then around the drone. I guess I could put this down, couldn't I? Well, hold on, let me show you the 360. This is where I am right now. Sorry, I can do this before I put the camera down. It's kind of funny, way down in the valley bottom down there, there's a gun range, and a buddy of mine owns Whistler Shooting. I just texted him. I said, "Are you guys shooting down there?" He goes, "Yep." I said, "Well, shut up. It's background sound of my video up here." So that's the 360, all right? Now, put this down again, right about there. So I videotaped those two lights across the valley, up in that basin. That's where I flew the drone. And it's during, I don't know what part of the drone. I'd have to look at the video myself later on and tell you what minute mark. But at one point, if you look to the left side of the valley, looking uphill, the camera stops and spins around the drone. And you can see a rock slide down there below me a little bit. That rock slide is where those lights were, okay? So that was interesting. Video, what video is that? I don't know. Probably if you did a search of my videos, I recorded lights across the valley or something, I don't know. I don't know if you guys can see these bugs. They are ruthless, dirty little bastards. I don't know if, thing's still working? I don't know if they are attracted to the heat and the scent from the exhaust from the quad, or me, and there's no wind here to blow them away from me. They're gonna drive me absolutely bonkers. It's like away. Get away, you pricks. Get out of here. Yeah, they're landing all over the quad. But they like me. Anyway, I'm gonna eat some of these. What do we got? This thing working still? Oh yeah, it's working. All right. I'm behind. Missed a couple days. Message a First Nation friend of mine down in Mount Currie. I was hoping for him to get back to me. If he does, we're gonna get together later on and have a good conversation on here. So, let's get into a handful before I die from loss of blood from these little bugs. No bug dope. Damn. Ugh. For a side note, Mount Currie behind me is all this. This is Garibaldi Park back here. As far as you can see, when you get up there and you look down, you realize just how teeny tiny of a footprint humans actually do have here. It's nothing compared to what's available for mountains and valleys. It's absolutely nothing. We're a speck. Seems overpopulated in the tiny little cities we live in towns, but once you get out in the real world here, there is nothing but miles and miles and miles and miles. All right, listen to this. This is out of the recent in the inbox. It's titled Central Oregon. Hi, Steve. I've sent my encounter to you on several occasions, not knowing if you received it or not. Anyway, here it is again. All right. My name is Steve Sumter. I live in a very rural area in Central Oregon. I've had encounters with these beings most of my life, beginning when I lived in the Tahoe area, California. But this encounter is the most recent. I live in an area of Oregon that they refer to as the High Desert. This is not a desert with sand and tumbleweeds. It's full of jack pine and ponderosa pine trees. Me and a few friends decided to take our dogs for a walk behind one of their properties. We've been doing this for years. In the same area, we arrived at a spot around halfway that we would sit down on these old fallen trees and let the dogs play. I started looking around when I noticed that there were two trees around 45 to 50 feet long in between three other trees, and a huge X. The root wads were still intact. Steve, they were green, freshly pulled from the ground, ? There are no roads back there. I'll include photos at the end. I took out my phone and randomly taking pictures of the area, I noticed an old tree that had been pulled down to form an arc. I took a pic of that also. I didn't notice anything, and neither did the dogs. We must have been upwind of it. It wasn't until I returned home I was zooming in on the pics I took when I seen it. I knew they were around here. I've been having encounters for years in this area. I live a couple blocks from this area. Anyway, check out the photos and let me know what you think. There's no photos. No photos. All right, that's a fail. Oops. And I also had, I also messaged a bunch of, I shared a bunch of emails the other day and I totally blew it on the video, unfortunately. So, oh man, I got this. The shitty thing about going live, I've attached videos, I've attached pictures. I can't do it on here when you're live at all. Here's another with recording. I can't do anything with that. Anyway, I hope everybody's having a great weekend out there while I'm sitting here acting like a nutcase. Surrounding bugs. Let's listen to this one. It's so warm here. It's titled, I'm not sure what it was. Steve, I just had to send you an email from what happened last night, October 20th, 2023. My name is Troy Matichek. You can use my name. I was out ATVing with my wife, two grandsons, and my granddaughter in the Chippewa County Forest in Wisconsin, October 19th, 23, and the 20th. Everything went great on the first day, and the second day was absolutely beautiful riding. We got to our truck and trailer later in the evening, just before dark. By the time we got done unloading our ATVs, it was dark. And by the time we got them loaded onto the trailer, we needed flashlights to strap them down. As we were getting ready to strap things down, we started to hear something west of us out in the forest. I could tell it was a little ways from us. My guess, about a quarter mile. It was loud, not yelling, and clear, like someone talking to somebody else. My wife was not a bird. I asked what that was, and I told her I had no idea what it was. My oldest grandson asked me also what it was, and again I told him I had no idea. My youngest grandson, 5, was just listening and talking about the sound, saying it was wolves.
I asked him if he has ever heard any wolves, and he said of course he has. As we were listening to the sound, it sounded like another one answered the first one. This one was closer to us and a little further north of us. It sounded like a conversation between two people, but we could not understand a thing that was being said. Again, my wife asked what the hell that was, and I told her I had no idea, but it sounded like a Sasquatch from what I've heard on your channel or from the Sierra Sounds recordings. We scanned the woods with our flashlight and didn't see a thing. I asked if anyone could see an eye shine, and everyone but my youngest son said they could not. My youngest said he could see eye shadow. Yes, eye shadow. I'm a former military and retired law enforcement, 30 plus years. You hear about how some have felt overwhelming dread or fear, but I did not. I can tell you, it made me nervous, but I was not afraid. I asked my wife and grandson if they were scared, and they both said they were not. I've heard both wolves and coyotes out in the wild, and there is no way this was either of them. There are farms in the area, and it was no farm animals. What was funny, as the conversation between these two people didn't start until it was pitch black out. Today, October 21st, 23, on our way home, I played a short clip from the Sierra Sounds, and my wife and grandson said it sounded very similar to what we heard last night. I should mention that my granddaughter, 8, was sitting in my truck the whole time, so she never heard a thing. I have to say, what I heard was a conversation between two Sasquatches. I can't describe it in any other way. So that's our story. Take from it what you will or not. Thanks for your time, Troy. Okay, got you, Troy. Share it, man. Share it. Share it right away. Too bad nobody threw the old phone out to record that, right? And you mentioned the area, so I'm guessing that's going to knee-jerk someone who experienced something similar there is going to come out and share too. Now, I got to go back to that YouTube app. Is it still working? I think it's still working. All right, I'm going to leave the YouTube app. I'm streaming through my little GoPro again. Remember, I bought another one. Now, all right, listen to this. This is a little alarming of a title. Me and my friend were circled for hours. Hello. I prefer you to use my first name only. My name is Sam, and I have a story that I don't know that anyone else will believe, but I have to tell someone. Me and my buddy from work, Rusty, went fishing / frog gigging one night in remote Saline County, Arkansas, about 10 miles from where I live. We took my old V-bottom 12-foot boat and a paddle with us. We went to an old river hole that was pretty still, didn't have much current to it. We got there about an hour after dark and threw all our junk in the boat and pushed off. I had my .22 caliber semi-rifle with me because I don't want snakes and all that. We paddled around this old river hole, scanning the bank for frogs, but I noticed the only thing that was even moving was dime-sized baby frogs. Little minnow-sized fish and 2 water moccasins that I ended up shooting. I thought it was odd that there wasn't a raccoon, possum, bird, or even a decent frog moving. We pulled up on a gravel bar at the end of the water hole we were in and got out walking the shore looking for a frog or a snake, and all of a sudden, we both stopped and were looking at something in the gravel that I had never seen before. It almost looked like a giant big toe impression in the gravel, but I couldn't make it out real good because of the rocks it was in. I wrote it off as a hog or deer. We were standing there talking and all that for a minute when Rusty flashed his light up about 30 yards away quickly and swiftly, and there he was. The thing I saw was about 7'4" tall, and looked to be about 4.5 feet wide at the shoulders. He had a face of a man, but it was twice the size. One more time, he had the face of a man. Got it? Said 99.9999% of every encounter. His skin wasn't covered in black hair. It was that of almost charcoal. The thing that I remember most was his hands. They were massive. and looked strong enough to rip a tree in half, like we would open a chip bag. I was staring in the face of more power than I have ever thought of. We were frozen, as if we couldn't move. I had a gun in my hands that I'm extremely confident and accurate with, and I forgot I even had it. After about 30 seconds, we both turned and ran to the boat and paddled to the deepest spot, and the entire time we could hear it on the bank following us. We got to the deep hole and sat there in the dark, listening to the creature circle around us. Every time we would get on the bank opposite my truck, I'd try to paddle to the truck, and then he'd be there on the bank. Oh, that'd suck. He would not let us leave. So after a couple times of playing this game, we just sat there in my boat for hours. In the 3 hours we sat there, I felt emotions I hadn't felt in years. I felt sadness, depression, fear, a sense of loss. I felt loneliness and hatred, but not for the creature, but for myself. Whatever this creature was, it was playing with my emotions. It felt like, and I believe it was letting me know that it was in control, and that this was its land and territory, and that I have no place there. It was letting me know that I couldn't leave until it said I could. Finally, after 3 hours or so, it left, and we loaded my boat in the truck and drove out of there. We didn't talk about this until a week later. I've never felt more helpless in my life. I've never been scared of a man in my life, except my dad, and I've never been scared of an animal. But I can tell you, I was and still am scared of whatever this thing is. Again, please use my first name only. Thank you, Sam. Okay, Sam. Welcome to the club. Doesn't sound like you're too stoked to be a member. That's a shitty experience. Mind, that's a life-changing experience. And how do you explain that, you guys? How do you explain how they can do that to us? And why? Why do they do that? I think we're gonna have a fair understanding why soon. I don't get it. I don't know why. 1 second, I'm just trying to... All right. But you gotta wonder, all those feelings that whoever this is, when they're imposing those feelings on humans, is it their own emotions they're imposing on us? Right? Or are they pulling up ours and sticking it to us, using our own mind and playing absolute ruthless games with us? Because let's face it, you put that experience through your average human being, and that's going to change your life forever. Possibly stop you from enjoying life the way you want it to, right? I haven't had that happen to me yet. And I'm not looking forward to it if it does, but I want the answers. I want to know what's up. I want to know how to deal, right? We're going to find out. I am absolutely confident we're going to know soon. Thanks for sending that email, man. This is titled, Yet Another Spooky Experience. Oh my God, right up my nose. Little bastards. Hello again, Steve. Second time writing in. I shared a story about a woman-like scream yelled at in the Okocho Mountains of Southern Oregon. My name is John Palazzi. Writing in as this just happened to me. My coworker and his dad. So let's get to the encounter. It's 2 weeks into Idaho's deer and elk season. October 21st, 23. Side-by-sides and quads galore. I couldn't handle that. I can't handle hearing noises down there from humans. Look where I am. We hunted the morning to no avail. With all the racket, we pushed deeper into the Clearwater Mountains. Need a creek named Deer Creek. Need a creek. Must have meant crossed a creek. Amply named due to its large population of whitetails. We rode our four-wheelers into an area, shut them off around 12 8:30 p.m. Started to hike in, and we encountered a very steep trail. It's me and my brother in our 30s hiked down. His father only got halfway, then decided to turn around and go get the other four-wheeler. Just then, when he did that, we heard a crashing through the bushes to our right. Thinking it was a deer, we snuck into the area. Once into the thicket of dry grass and shrubbery, we heard another crash. We brought our guns up, but nothing came out. Then a third time, maybe 30 seconds later, another time, this I identified that it was a rock being thrown in front of us. My coworker didn't believe completely in Sabe before this. He looked at me wide eyes and said, "Yes, it was, but it's got to be my dad." We had a two-way radio on us, so then I get a wasp in the face. We had a two-way radio on us, so he asked him, "Are you throwing rocks?" His dad said, "No, I'm almost up at the four-wheeler." After that, we had two more get thrown, with the last one bigger. Big enough to hear a large thud when it hit the ground after it crashed through the trees. After we heard the last one, my coworker was officially spooked. He walked out of there backwards. I wasn't shaken up due to other experiences. His dad flew by us down the hill with his four-wheeler, so we walked down the steep trail after him, more or less backwards, hoping no more rocks would get hurled our way. Once at the bottom of the trail, we looked up and heard his dad at the very bottom, further off. Just when his four-wheeler was out of earshot, we heard two loud wood knocks coming from the direction I thought the rocks came from. The whole experience felt like it was a warning. I never felt threatened or fear. However, I did feel like leaving was our best course of action and not to go further that way. It seems my family is a magnet to these type of encounters. When everyone from the Club of No Return say you're marked, they mean it. My coworker's dad has also seen one, and I want to get his first-hand account and send it in with his permission without later. Stay well, Steve. Glad you're tooth the in the truck operation, fighting the good fight for truth and knowledge. Kind regards, Jonathan Palazzi. Okay, Jonathan, got you, man. Maybe just send him this video, and then maybe he might want to scratch it off himself and share it if he wants, right? I bet he probably will. You know, when you look at all these, one thing I've said in the past, when you look at all these mountains, especially behind me, right? People always say, "Oh, you're encroaching on their land. There's too many people. We're overpopulated." My ass, we are. Not a chance. Look, I look down the bottomless valley right now. There's a highway down there. What is it? 40 feet across? 40 feet across. And how far people, on average, go away from that highway? Up at these behind me. Now, how right? Or Mount Currie. Just so you can get an idea of where this mountain is situated to me right now, all right? So I am directly west of Mount Currie. So you guys can figure out what direction you're looking right now. Now you get on that map and you pan out. You pan in until you find out where I am. Pan out and you take a look at that real estate all around me right now. It's off the chart, endless, with nobody there. So no, we're not encroaching on the territory, sorry. But anyway, with that being said, while I'm up here, over there, and if I didn't have to go down below and I could just hang out on this mountain up here and glance down, those little simple humans down there are so easy to avoid, it's stupid for anything. So, why do you have to go throwing rocks at people? Why do you gotta let them know they're there? Why do you gotta terrorize them? Right? Why? It's way, way too easy to avoid human beings. I don't give a shit what anybody says. I'm behind that one 100%. It's way, way too easy. I'm picturing if I didn't need fire, who knows, maybe they're here part-time, maybe they're not, I don't know. but I mean, I could avoid human beings right now being a human being right here. For years, if I disappeared that way in the woods, you're not finding me. You're not finding me, and I'm not going to throw rocks at your ass, right? It just doesn't make sense, that part of it. You outclass us so severely outclass us, whatever the word is, yet this shit goes on. I don't know why. I don't know why. All right. What do we got? Another one. Oops. It's endless. Mark, this is red. Hope this is still streaming. I guess I should check. I'll check after I read this. Oh my God, these bugs drive me nuts. Hello, Steve. Bob Burden, Clare, Michigan. I think that's what you're spelling. A little bit of typos there. My deer was returned to me. I left 3 kings on a stringer over a fresh raked sand pile. Okay, 3 kings. That's going to be 3 salmon. My stringer was exactly the same place. All fish and every part was gone. Not one track. No jaws, nothing. Except 100 yards away, the whole skin from one side of the salmon. I shot a doe late one evening with my bow. It died fast. I didn't want the neighbor to see the doe, feeling it was her wild pet, so she might be upset. So I fed my son, came back on his 80cc quad. No headlight was brought. Upon arrival, the doe was gone, and I'm immediately frozen in fear. I felt like a SEAL team was on me. The tall grass had frost and moonlight. I could kind of barely see less frosty areas. Following these, I see my deer laid down before me. Its neck rolled forward, Steve, as if over a shoulder, and completely laid in front of me. This was a swamp edge with frozen ice been on prior cutting wood. It was so solid. After seeing the deer, ice was breaking, so violent and loud. Smash, smash, smash. Then it stopped, and I believe it faced me. I heard the mud under its feet make suction noise a few times. I think it stopped and swayed 3 times before crossing the fence, possibly wanting to take the deer back. The next day, I was still too nervous to go near the frozen ice. I wanted a picture where it broke the ice. 3 days later, I glanced. Very little detailed tracks were frozen and roundish. And now realize under the ice I had perfect preserved prints. I saw absolutely nothing. All right. That one was a little confusing, but basically picked up what you're saying. You saw it, right? The tall grass, frost and moonlight, I could kind of barely see less frosty areas. Following those, I see my deer laid down before me. Its neck rolled forward, Steve, as if over a shoulder and carefully laid in front of me. Does that mean it was put down in front of you like you seen? Oh. All right, I got you, man. It's the terror feeling that gives it away, right? No matter what the experience, if somebody mentions the terror feeling included, you know what it was, right? At this point of the game. That's a little confusing not knowing exactly what you meant with what happened with the deer. All right, what do we got here? Holy cow, this is a monster book, that one. I think I'll lose all my electricity out of the power pack here if I did that. Now, what else do I got? Let me get in another folder here. This thing's still streaming? I'm guessing it's probably still streaming, isn't it? Yep, still working, right? I'm in the comment section right now, so comments are flipping upwards here, so I'm guessing it's still working. It's gotta be. Right? All right, gotcha. Yes, yep, gotcha. Thanks, Dave. Thanks, Don. Sadie, Ryan, Molly, Tina, Gabriel, Deborah, everybody, thanks. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my notes, all right? Back to the notes. Where are we here? What's this one? Now, some of these I hope. Man, some of these I've read, I think. I hate rereading. Well, I don't really hate it, but it's a bit of a pain. Oh man, these bugs are brutal, you guys. The bugs are frickin' brutal. All right, let's read this and hope I didn't read it. Ex-police officer encounter, Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, man. Pennsylvania's off the chart. Hi, Steve. My name is Mark Wallace. I'm 50. Okay, here's a shitty deal about going live. How many times people say their name in the beginning of the email, and then I get to the end, please don't share my name. Right? I guess there's nothing I can do today. If you put your name in here before you say don't read it, it's going to be game over. Hey, Steve. My name is Mark Wallace. I'm 50, and I live in the north of England. I'm an ex-policeman, as I had to retire through being injured on duty. I've always considered myself to be an honest, hardworking type of bloke that keeps himself to himself. Although I like living a quiet life, I've always encouraged my family and friends to always feel free to come to me with anything or any problem that they may have, as I'd help them however I could. I've always loved the outdoors, especially all kinds of fishing, and although there isn't any hunting as such to do where I'm from, I used to go onto farms in my area and shoot rats and rabbits with my air rifle for the farmers as a bit of a free pest control. I can hear you laughing now at my air rifle. It's no doubt like a pea shooter compared to the firearms you use on a daily basis. It gave me plenty of good memories, so I can't complain. Along with the odd bit of shooting, I've always enjoyed hiking and was an amateur boxer throughout my teens and my 20s, so I've always considered myself physically fit. Okay, so enough about me. Time to get into my encounter. It was in the autumn of 2011, and as I had holidays to take from work, I decided to go visit my buddy I used to box with back in the day. He'd met a gal from Pennsylvania some years previous and was now married and living in northeast Penn State. It was a very rural location and probably around 20 to 30 miles from the nearest mall. It was my first time visiting, and I was blown away by the scenic landscape, forest, woodlands, hills, and mountains everywhere. Wow, you guys in the US and Canada are really spoiled when it comes to beautiful country. My second day there, I decided to have a run, first thing before breakfast, around his land, which was around 15 acres of open grassland, with the start of a dense forest at the bottom section of his perimeter. This is sounding familiar. It was around 6:30 a.m., and although it was quite cold that morning, it was nice, fresh. I'd done 2 laps, and as I was running by the tree line to the wooded area for a third time, a rock the size of a baseball came whizzing past my face from the drift. From getting a shock, I felt the thing had in the head. It would have killed. My first and only thought was that it's the neighbor's young boys, as my buddy had told me he had neighbors either side of him around 2 miles away at each side. As I was so annoyed, I headed straight into the tree line to the direction the rock came from to confront the idiotic dickheads. I thought if they're just kids, at least I'll give them a good verbal thrashing. But if they're old enough, I'd probably be a little more inclined to punch whoever it was clean in the chin as my adrenaline was pumping. I don't take kindly to folk trying to cause me harm. Okay, I've never read this one. I had walked quickly into the woods shouting, "You're gonna regret throwing that effing rock." I'd only walked 10 to 12 paces from the tree line into the wood when this God almighty roar hit me in the face. It completely froze me to my core, and for a few seconds I couldn't move. It lasted about 4 to 5 seconds, and as I was still standing there, it let out a second roar. And this time I did move. I ran like I've never ran before. I sprinted back up to the back of the house, which was around 60 to 70 meters away from the tree line. It seemed a 2 to 3 seconds. Once I got there, I turned around to see if anything was or had been chasing me, as I knew that roar could not have been made by any man. Sorry, lost my spot. And that it was probably a bear. I was horrified to see, standing in the tree line, a huge, bulky, man-like being. I say man, like as it had the same basic physical features of a man, but this was definitely no man, as this thing was easy 8 to 9 feet tall, 4 feet wide, I'm guessing. I could easily work out these dimensions, as its head was higher than the lowest tree branches, which I had seconds ago walked under, and they were way over my head, and I'm 5'11", by the way. I couldn't make out facial features at that distance, but I could tell it was covered in brown hair. It was very similar to the color of the bark in the trees it was standing beside. As I scrambled to enter the back door of the house, I locked the door behind me and continued to stare at it through the glass pane in the door. It started pacing back and forth and also let out another roar, the whole time keeping its gaze firmly on me. Steve, I'm not easily intimidated, and even when I have been, it's always been fight with me and never flight. But I'm not ashamed one bit to say I was completely terrified and shaking with fear. I thought I needed to wake my buddy up and tell him about this shit immediately. I should have knocked on his bedroom door, as after all, his wife does sleep there too, but I was in a state of pure shock, so I simply burst in and blurted out, there's an effing monster in your garden. Luckily, it was only him in the room, as his wife had just left for work, it was only him in the room, and as his wife had just left for work, I told me and immediately ran downstairs. Okay, I must have meant I told him, and immediately ran downstairs with me and went to the back door. Before he opened it, I stopped him and asked him to get a gun, as I knew he kept a shotgun and a handgun in his home. While he went to get his gun, I could see the thing wasn't there anymore, but this made me feel worse, as for all I knew, it had come up to the house and was just waiting for us to come out. When he came back with a shotgun and more clothes on, we both went outside, and after checking the perimeter of the house, we never seen anything. It was all grassed areas, so even if it had been snooping around, it would have left prints. That morning I told him exactly what I saw, and although he seemed to believe me, he said not to say a word to his wife, or anyone for that matter, as he'd only recently got a job as a cop out there, and figured he'd either be laughed out of the department, or he'd be labeled as a not very credible man. Although I understood where he was coming from, I still thought he should have said something to the authorities, as this thing could literally tear a person into pieces with its bare hands. It spoiled my vacation, as apart from not wanting to hike anywhere, it caused a bit of friction between my buddy and I. We've not had any contact in the last 5 or so years, and I think it's due to me always bringing it up. Okay, I did read this. Sorry, I've read this, but a while back. Sorry. And I think it's due to me always bringing it up and asking if he's seen or heard anything since. I've always had an open mind regarding the world and what inhabits our planet, but never gives Sasquatch any thought. But I've got to say, since the day I seen that thing, I asked myself, was it a Sasquatch? Surely it's got to be. What else could it be? On driving back in England following that vacation, I told one of my friends while having a pint at a local pub, and he looked at me like I was an idiot and simply laughed it off, saying that because I wasn't used to seeing bear, that probably was, and I simply didn't identify it accurately. Needless to say, he's lucky he didn't get a smack in the face at that point. I've never spoke about it to anyone else, and bottled it up until I came across your channel while I was looking for other stories from other people regarding the matter. Before emailing you this, I also bought your book, which I really enjoyed. Although reading some of the stories brings that day back to me, it still makes every hair on my body stand on end. I didn't get any bad smells nor did I receive any of the psychic messaging from the being like I've read some of your stories have had. Anyway, that's my story, Steve, and appreciate you letting me tell you it. Feel free to use my name, as anyone that watches must have some in the topic, so if that's the case, they can discount or mock anybody that has a story to tell, surely. I admire your spirit and determination about this matter, and the way you simply laugh off the ignorant arseholes that email you, shit, or insult you. Pussies and cowards. That's all they are, and they know it. Best wishes, Mark. Okay, Mark. I think it's funny. Maybe I'm getting old. Maybe my memory is starting to get shitty. But I somewhat remember reading it, and I don't remember some of it as well. Weird, right? Anyway, that's the shitty deal, the people laughing. Side note, when I was at the very bottom here, strapping all the stuff on my quad, and I can't get my inverter to work. I got it attached to my truck, fired it up so I can recharge all my batteries and shit. And it says overload when I turn it on. And do the plug-in, it's not feeding juice out of the plug-in, my inverter. But it does do the USB ports to the phone and stuff. That's very annoying. Anyway, so I'm messing with that, and a couple came riding up on mountain bikes. One guy, he said he grew up in the UK and South Africa, and the girl, she was basically from here, knew a couple people I knew, and we just started BSing. And if I was going hunting, I'm like, yeah, not really. I said I was going to make a video. Obviously, I got the Starlink on the back of the quad. They're probably wondering, what's this guy doing? So we started bullshitting. They were a kind couple, and I said, you guys want to hear something real weird? Real weird topic? And they're like, okay. So I dropped on them what I saw when I was 17, 18, and then I right away told them about my grandfather. Because at first when I said Bigfoot, Sasquatch, they both laughed. But by the end of it, they said the hair on their arms were standing on end, and they were absolutely interested in the topic. And they were very intelligent couple. But it's funny, it was just a bit of a reminder just how many people there are running around that don't have a clue. Right, and I'm pointing right across to Mount Currie and rattle off everything's going on that side of the valley, which is ridiculously common on this side. But I've got my drone in my backpack as well. So what I think I might do when I'm done with this live stream is I might send it up here and show you guys where I am, and then I might run it that way, because I'm as high as you can go on this particular mountain by using gasoline. I mean, you can hike obviously forever up there, but I'm gonna run the drone up, and then I might hold on to the GoPro for the ride on the quad, and I'll throw down that video as well. All right, maybe we'll start doing that while I'm away. I'll run up, I'll throw down the, I'll edit up the quad video with the drone video, and I'll load those separately so you can have a look at exactly where I am. But anyways, me mentioning that is the height of land behind the camera. Timber right there. Something came out of that timber on the other side, which is the Sioux Valley. All right, you can Google that up, the Sioux Valley. And if you go up that main logging road, I don't know, about 5 kilometer, hang a right, there's another logging road that starts winding up. And there's an old cabin up there. And that's where all the paragliders jump off of there and glide around. And that's also where the cover of my book photograph was taken from, with Mount Currie in the background. Anyway, somebody posted on Facebook a couple years ago, somebody forwarded it to me, a couple found tracks coming down out of this timber, but on the top of the hill direction. And they came down and crossed the logging road, went into the Christmas trees, and was heading straight south. So that's one recent one that I can tell you happened right above me here on the timber up here. But I always tell people that are curious, you want something to happen, all you gotta do is go hike up on that timber behind me. Just go hike right up as high as you can and start camping and hanging out. That's all you gotta do as far as I'm concerned. I know a friend of mine, he's second generation taxidermist, and his father was up there on Mount Currie, up above the tree line, years ago with a friend hunting mountain goats when you could still hunt them up there. And he mentioned that in the nighttime below their tent in the rock slide, they could hear some kind of Japanese-like chatter. Right there. Got that delivered firsthand, and then of course there's all the other experiences there that I've shared on here. enough times as it is, right? I don't know how many of you are looking at where I am right now on your maps. But you should have a little look. Now, where should we go? I gotta find somebody that hasn't been shared here, I hope. All right, here's one. It's not marked as red. I hope this is still streaming. Maybe I'll check. Check before I read. Still going? Still going. Right? Yeah, still ripping. All right, here we go. Back to the notes. Hey, Steve. You can use my name because I don't care about what people think. Right on. Welcome to the Club of Freedom. I know what I saw. I don't care if people believe it. That's their problem. My name is Jerry. When I was 8 years old, my mom and dad split up. My two sisters and I stayed with my mom. Then we moved from Texas to Oklahoma to live with my mom's dad, my grandpa. We lived with him for a couple of years. Him and my uncle, my mom's little brother, that was still a kid practically himself. He was only 17 years old, I think. Anyway, my grandpa was self-employed, so during the summer I could go to work with him and my uncle would go as well. He pumped septic tanks and he mostly worked for farmers and people who lived in the country. So, we was always on little red dirt county roads. This happened when I was 9 years old. We were outside Enid, Oklahoma, E-N-I-D, Oklahoma, one day, and we just pumped a tank. So we're going down the road to empty it on the other part of the people's land in their pasture. So we pulled out on the dirt road, and as soon as we pulled out, I seen it. It was about 100 yards in front of us. It walked from our left to the right across the road, and it was huge. I screamed Bigfoot and pointed straight ahead. My grandpa and uncle both started laughing. And my uncle said, "Boy, there ain't no such thing as Bigfoot." I couldn't believe that they didn't see it. I know I was 8 years old, but I knew what I saw. I was mad. Well, it was 3 days later, and we were back out at work. Not at the same place, but back out in the country outside of Enid. It's Enid or Enid, whatever. We were driving down this little narrow red dirt road, and I seen something just sitting right there in the middle of the road. And I'm telling you, we were in an 85 Chevy, 3/4 ton truck. And this was about a foot taller than the cab. It was a brown-red color. It was standing there. And before we got to it, I was saying, "What is that?" over and over again. My grandpa started laughing and said, "What, do you see a Bigfoot again?" And that's about the time he kind of drove around it, because it was standing right in the middle of the road. But I was standing up in the middle of the truck myself, looking at it as we passed by it. My uncle was laughing. Grandpa was laughing. They told me to sit down. They never seen it, Steve. Oh, God, okay. This is where the brain gets challenged. It was 10 feet away from me, only because I was in the middle of the truck. As we passed by it, its head was leaned back and it was looking like up towards the sky. It looked over at the truck as we passed by it, with just a little bit of movement. But then it seen me, turned around, standing up, looking at it. Sorry. But when it seen me, turned around, standing up, looking at it, its whole demeanor changed. I seen shock come on its face. I said, "What?" Because I didn't know and wasn't prepared to see that face. It had brown, red hair about 3 inches long all over it, except on its face. It had big, almost yellowish-orange eyes and gray nose in it. I said, "I believe the grandma wasn't to look at it." I asked Grandpa, "See that?" And he said, "Sure it did." I never smelled anything. I really smelled something, and he said, "You really smelled bad." So that was my recognition. It was something that it was something there since they never seen it and I did. I thought about this a lot over the years, and I've had several other things happen to me, and my wife has also. I can send you other emails about those encounters later. But as for now, if you read this, tell me, what do you think about that? I was the only one that's seen it. It was right in front of all three of us. Both times, both way, on both days. End of email. So, just when you think your puzzle's getting tighter, you hear that one. Then what does your brain do? Right? But how many times we heard of kids, parents saying their kids are pointing at something flat out, and the parents can't see it, but the kid can. We've had that emailed in a whole bunch of times, that similar. Right? It's when emails that those other typical organizations, that bogus science against the lens crap all the time, never acknowledge that one, would they? Right? And that's why they're still stuck doing circles where they are, staring at footprints. What do I think of that one? I don't know. What do you guys think of that one? My gut says that that person's legitimate. How do you even remotely try to explain that one, right? And then how do you picture somebody getting up in the morning, like I said a million times? Oh, I'm so bored right now. I just need attention. I know what I'm going to make up today. Right? Picture it. Picture just how much of an absolute psychopath you have to be. How would your brain even come up with that story in the first place if you were willingly whacked right out of it between your ears, wanting to make up a story to share it somewhere for whatever weird shit you're going to get out of hearing it read? Said probably nobody ever. Right? The detail of that experience made up to share. Think about it. Nope. How do you come up with that? Anyway, bite my lip. Bite my lip. I appreciate you being brave and send that in, man, because you know as well as I do how many people are going to laugh at that, right? But I'm not laughing right there with you. You're in a safe place. How does that happen? What's going on? Right? What is the makeup of a human being that allows them to see that and others not? And that is, okay, there is a strong pattern in there, is the shock from this person, hair-covered person, when it realizes somebody can see it. The shock, right? Uh-oh, I screwed up. Yeah, what'd you screw up? Which part did you screw up? Share it with us. You know? What did you screw up that we absolutely can't wrap our bean around? All right, here's a short one. My son-in-law and I went to camp late one night in archery season. He was splitting wood in the back room when something hit the back wall of the camp really hard and loud. He came running into the front room with eyes as big as dinner plates. After he realized his pistol wasn't on his side, there wasn't any tracks anywhere, but this was hard and dry. There wasn't any other people for miles. Every time I mention it, you can tell it still bothers him. I wish I knew for sure what it was. Rich, Rusnak, Hastings, PA, another one from PA. Yeah. The cabin slammed. Experience that. It's cool. It's very, very, very intimidating to experience. Although you can never say exactly what it was 100% because you've never seen it. What's this one? I could sit here and read these for hours, right? Especially being up here in my zone. All right, here we go. Savona, BC Sasquatch encounter. I might have read this. No, I haven't. Maybe I have. I don't think so. No name sharing. All right, I got you. And again, if you're all out there thinking about emailing in, if you don't want something shared, don't put it in the email. Hey brother, I'm a Shuswap First Nation, and I finally thought I should share this with one of the handful of people I know have experienced the terror these monster beings can put in your chest. Okay, just so you guys know, I recently had a friend of mine, my buddy, who sat on the porch at his cabin in a video last year, and he texted me some friends of his were deer hunting in the Shuswap, but on the other side of the lake from him, and he's in Chase. He's just east of Chase. So this little community is right across the other side of the lake from him, where the big fires were, and a man and his daughter, a man and his wife are hunting, and had an experience like just a couple weeks ago right there. That's Shuswap. Sorry. One more time. Hey brother, my Shuswap First Nation. I finally thought I should share this with one of the handful of people I know have experienced the terror these monster beings can put in your chest. I'm almost 30, and I've grown up in the woods. I'm an avid mule deer hunter and have never been scared in the woods. Ever. Actually, up until my first encounter. It's where I would go day or middle of the night when I needed to be away from everything on days off, mostly to forget about the job I had at the time, and it definitely worked. Weirdly enough, I would just go there to smoke pot and listen to music and clear my brain. I know what you're thinking now, a hippie. Nope, I'm not. No sir, not quite. I have a Red Seal trade and worked in oil and gas for far too long. That being said, I've got to give thanks to it all at the same time. Anyway, it was about 12:45 in the morning, July 18th, 2019. I have no idea who you are at this point, but within a week of that date, I know all about your channel. I'm sitting in my truck at the base of a nearby mountain, doing the things I listed above. Aha. I had my new dirt bike in the back of my truck and was considering getting home because it was late. I had all the windows down and the music just loud enough I could still hear my gas engine running. Not very loud at all. As usual, I had the rear cargo lights on and pretty much everything else on except the interior. Thankfully, my truck was running, and I was sitting laid back thinking about all the good things I had in my life. All in a matter of about 10 seconds total, from the start to me frickin' bolting out of there. The hood of my pickup frickin' lit up like someone was shining a bluish spotlight directly on me from the trees above. Completely dumbfounded in what was happening. I could see the road behind me, to the left, to the right, where eventually the main logging road was. It started flickering, and I heard a sound like tick, 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 with every flash. Let me remind you, I'm in the middle of nowhere, in the bush at this point. My heart was almost beating out of my chest. I honestly was too scared to look up, Steve. I put my truck in drive and put it to the floor until I got to my house. So, me being me, I go home and pack my shit and get off the mainland. Knowing nothing about Sasquatch, I actually end up camping near a location where you said your friends had experiences with Sasquatch near Victoria. I know. Run away to Sasquatch Central, Vancouver Island. I returned home after Canada Day, stopping in Whistler and relaxing with nothing out of the ordinary happening on my trip. But within hours of me walking through my front door, I could not stop thinking about what happened. I said to myself, quote, not a frickin' chance I'm letting this get to me, end quote. I'm gonna go up there tonight by myself and shout and yell, and nothing's gonna happen. And I'll return home with nothing to prove. Wrong. Uh-oh. Just so you guys know, Whistler actually is that way, right over the hill. Well, not right over the hill, about 18 kilometers that way. I grabbed my 30-30 and a can of Budweiser for moral support. I park in the very same spot and I get out of my truck and I crack a beer. With the headlamp on and all the lights on, my pickup running, including engine on and door open, I was scared shitless at this point. I started yelling at the top of my lungs, telling this thing, or whatever the lights were to, get the F off my mountain. Apparently this thing didn't like that. About 1,000 yards just below the top of the mountain, this roar/scream so loud came from those rock bluffs where nobody's ever gone that it overtook my yelling. It lasted about 8 to 12 seconds. Obviously, I was full of adrenaline at this point, and when it stopped, it yelled at the top. Oh, I think you meant I yelled at the top of my lungs. Get the F off my mountain multiple times. Halfway through me saying it, the second time, not even 100 yards to the right of me, in the bush, the roar scream was directed right at me. I didn't shit my pants, but I was close. I felt it in my chest. I have goosebumps thinking about it right now. I couldn't see with my headlamp where or what it was. I was frozen, trying to make my legs work. Finally, I just stared at the ground, calmly walking to my truck, expecting to be picked up off the ground by something the whole 20 yards. I got inside and drove home. Got inside and drove home and drank an entire bottle of Bacardi rum. Haha. I told one group of friends about this and got laughed at. Thanks to my brother/hunting partner, believe there'll be an event. I've got a muley backpack hunt planned for this summer/fall. Next year, make me feel normal about this. Once again, thank you, Steve. I hope you enjoyed the story. Yeah. It's not too common somebody goes out there and roars back and being terrified at the same time. Here comes my token plane. Background sound. Beauty day to be flying. All right, where am I? We still streaming? I think we are. Well, there's still comments ripping up here. Guess it's still working. I hope. All right, got the yeses. Going back. Ready? Short one. Sasquatch, the title of this email. Hi Steve, thanks for all you do on this topic. My story is pretty short. I'm a 60-year-old man and this happened about 43 years ago. I grew up in central New Jersey, not far from Manhattan. There's a park located behind my house. The total size of the park was probably no more than 5 acres. Occasionally after going out to the clubs at night, I would grab a 6-pack of beer and walk up to the park and just hang out enjoying the night and the peace and quiet. This one particular time, I grabbed a 6-pack and went up and sat on the park bench. This park bench is sandwiched between neighbors. There's not a lot of woods, and I'll never forget the absolute and total fear that came over me. This is many years ago, so I don't quite remember whether I heard sounds or anything moving around, but the one thing I do remember is the absolute fear and dread. I'm 6'7", 260, and not too many things make me scared, but after feeling this feeling for about a minute, I could not run back to my house fast enough. I love your channel and the Sasquatch topic triggered that memory. I remember it as if it was yesterday. Thanks for all you do. Keep the faith, brother. Okay, man. We get a lot of that from the United Kingdom with parks, little small chunks of forest, and the shit still goes on there. Something's going on with the timber, right? The trees. Ugh, bugs. I didn't think I was going to be able to sit here long with these little bastards. Oh, I got on my nose. Ugh. Get out of here. All right. This is titled Audio Observation. All right. For this, don't shit. They don't miss nothing. This story is from Dan Michaud, a full-time trapper in Kapuskasing, Northern Ontario, checking his line. His observation continued for 4 minutes until they spotted him and walked back into the bush. This is his story, distance 130 meters. Hi, Steve. I put out the question regarding sightings on a trapper's forum, and this is what I received back. The Dan also said he observed them for 4 minutes and found part of a moose, fresh and frozen, hooked high into a tree, no rope. January, no hunters around. Wow. Well, I never thought I would share my story with any. I am outfitter for wolves and a fur trapper in Northern Ontario. I was checking my line one day in December. It was cold and going up after we had a storm. Started seeing friends, and I ran into a herd of. There was tracks all over the place, and I spotted lots of blood. So, stopped, had a big look, checking out the action that was going on, in between the herd of moose. Still to this day, there were 2 things standing in the middle of the herd. Not wolves, not anything you've seen before. I didn't want to put stress on the moose. There was over 4 foot of snow. Never seen the 2 strange things again. That's the end of the email? Really? That's it? Come on. That's it. All right, we need a follow-up. We don't know what he saw. At all. So, if you're still with the channel, that's an older one. You need to hopefully email us back and share the rest. All right, I've got a photo. I can use a photo because I can put it up to the camera. I don't know what this is about. Somebody's going to know what it's about. Should I share it? I don't know. We're going to do it. This Sasquatch picture was taken by a guy driving to work across Arkansas River on AR Highway. He posted on Facebook several years ago. I know you don't like photos, Steve. This is the clearest photo of a Sasquatch. The guy worked in Paris, Arkansas. It was such a good photo, I saved it. Hope you share it. Sincerely, Vicky. All right. All right, here we go. I'm gonna put this up to the camera because I know it'll work. Somebody's gonna be familiar with that. Just work my quad apart. All right, can you guys see that? I think you probably can. I'll hold it there for a second. That's the photo. Anybody familiar with it? Because I'm not. Well, I might have seen a version, maybe. I don't know. But there you go. Shared. We got this. Holy cow. That's a monster of an email, too. I'll go back and find that again later. Another one says, don't read on camera. All right. What's this? Have I read this? I don't know. Excuse me, it's titled WTF. We've had a handful of emails titled that. Steve, please keep my name and information confidential. This whole thing has left me in a haze of confusion and disbelief. My name is Jeff, and I live in southeast Wisconsin. Not your typical sighting location. What I'm about to tell you happened less than 48 hours ago. I spent the day yesterday throwing up and having panic attacks. I don't know how to talk about this. I don't know what to do. I have to tell someone. I feel like there's significant details that need to be shared, or maybe not. I don't know. Sorry for rambling. I still feel terrible. Anyway, here it goes. Sunday afternoon, about 1 p.m., I went to one of a dozen public hunting grounds that I frequent in hopes of finding a few sheds from some of the mature bucks I'd seen during this past season. Jefferson Marsh. There's a substantial amount of snow on the ground, which, as you know, slows travel. I'd made it about 3/4 of a mile from the access, paralleling the creek the whole time. This was a familiar location to me, and an awesome big buck bedding area this time of year. I started to head west away from the creek towards bedding. I noticed a nasty smell, gut pile with a musky quality. When head hunting, my focus is on scanning antlers. Not much else. This is sounding familiar too. I made it a yard creek just into the cedar. That's when shit hit the fan. It started with a thump behind me. It sounded and felt like a four-wheeler hit the ground. Everything shook. I quickly turned around and saw it. 30 yards away on the trail I just walked was this thing. It didn't look anything like the Patterson Sasquatch, not at all. It stood probably 5.5, 6.5 feet tall, extremely muscular, dark brown hair that looked like it had been falling out, like an ape with mange. Its head was smaller than it should have been, with big, beady black eyes. Its face was wrinkled. Lips, a weird black/brown mix. It clearly had canines, big ones. It was drooling or slobbering as it breathed. Its arms hung just to the knees, maybe just above. Its hands were thick and muscular and grayish in color. Its tongue was gray also. Its ears were human-like, but bigger and pointed. It was completely naked with genitals that are similar but different than ours. Its penis was gray and covered in hair. Keep in mind, all this happened within 2 minutes or less. However, I will never forget anything I saw, ever. I can't. After turning to face this thing, the creature made fists, both hands at its sides, slowly bending its elbows to 90 degrees. I was stunned, shocked, impossible, terrified. The second I started to slowly back up, while simultaneously unsnapping my knife, the creature quickly pointed both its fists at me, palms up. Okay, we read this. Do I keep going or not? It's a long one. Read it! Cut it off. Sorry, I read it. And whoever gets frustrated with that, just think how frustrating it is for me, all right? Nothing I can do about it. Damn it. Damn it. How long have I been here? I should probably get my butt moving to see if my friend has answered my message, and I hope he has, so we can go hang out and have him share with you everything he wants. Okay, hold on a minute. Let me try a different folder. Let's see what we got. It drives me bonkers that I double up. I was so organized before my phone got wiped. Hold on a minute. See the downfall of doing the live, right? You gotta put up with my shit here. All right, here we go. I know I haven't read this. Hi, Steve. I started watching your How to Hunt YouTube videos before you began sharing people's experiences of unusual beings in North American forests and woodlands. The life that you lead is so vastly different from the one I do. I love learning about hunting, wildlife, and the wilderness you live and work in through your videos and from the comfort of my recliner. Not the outdoors adventuring type, as I like my creature comforts. I got my sister watching you too.